Pay close attention. The news you're about to see is fulfilling Bible prophecy.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yisrael Hawkins. Well, Japan digging out of the rubble, North Carolina standing up against transgenders, and a Russian fighter jet flying within 30 feet of a U.S. naval vessel. Definitely going to cause a controversy there. All these stories and much more in the news today, including one mom's stance against social media and the effects on her children. But first, we're going to go on the campaign trail. Well, Bernie Sanders received an invitation that he said he just couldn't refuse. Now this as he took a day out of his busy presidential campaign to attend a conference on economic inequality and climate change at none other than the Vatican. Well, the conference was hosted by the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, a group who advises the Pope on social matters.
Interesting. Senator Sanders was excited to be invited to the conference in which he would have the opportunity to say a few words to the Academy about the need for a moral economy. He told reporters there, "In my country and around the world, we are seeing a handful of very wealthy people becoming wealthier while most people are becoming poorer."
In fact, he continued, the top 1% of people on this planet now own more wealth than the entire bottom 99%. Now that to me is unacceptable. It is unsustainable. It is immoral. And together we have got to change that, he said.
Interesting. Sanders is impressed by Pope Francis's views concerning creating a moral economy and considers himself to be looking for the same changes in society as the Pope. Commenting, he said, "I am just so excited to be here, so proud to be here with other like-minded people who are trying to do our best to create a moral economy." And they really kind of try to emphasize on that word moral economy. That's very interesting.
Sanders insists we need moral principles ingrained into our economy, especially when it comes to climate change, now blaming the oil and gas industry. The senator said most scientists agree climate change is real and is caused by human activity. It is already causing devastating problems all over this planet, and whether the fossil fuel industry likes it or not, he said, we've got to transform our economy, our energy system rather, away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy.
Well, the Bible won't be the state book in Tennessee. Governor Bill Haslam vetoed a bill after it narrowly passed both chambers of the General Assembly that would have made the Bible the state's official book. Sponsors said that it was aimed at honoring the importance of the holy book in the state's history and the economy as opposed to government endorsement of religion.
Well, French Prime Minister Manuel Valls has triggered controversy by calling for a ban on Islamic headscarves at universities. Valls also shocked France's Muslim community by claiming that a majority of French people think Islam is incompatible with the values of the Republic.
Cabinet members contradicted his remarks, and the education minister said she did not support banning headscarves. University leaders insist students should be free to do as they please and that such prohibitions would be illegal.
Well, leaders of more than 50 nations at a summit in Istanbul have criticized Iran. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation said it deplored what it calls Iran's interference on international affairs of states in the region and also Bahrain, Yemen, Syria, and Somalia. Iran was also accused by the leaders of continuing to support terrorism.
At the summit, Turkish President Erdogan said to solve the problems of the Muslim world, the most important things we need are unity, solidarity, and cooperation for Islamic countries to give a message of unity and togetherness to all Muslims.
Kumamoto, Japan was struck with a major earthquake this week with a magnitude above 7.0. Now, this came just 24 hours after an already powerful 6.2 quake hit in southern Japan that flattened many structures and set other structures on fire.
Wow. The quake triggered massive landslides, which of course cut off roads and destroyed bridges. And according to the Japanese government, 42 people died in the two quakes and over 1,000 were injured. Of those, 190 are in serious condition, and of course around 30,000 rescue workers are still searching for survivors and handing out food to those unable to return to their homes.
And of course, Catan, those numbers are probably going to go up as they usually do with these type of disasters.
That's right.
Well, in a CBS interview, Caltech seismologist Lucy Jones said the smaller quake is actually what is known as a foreshock, because it triggered a larger shock. Now, she said about 5 to 10% of the time the earthquake that's triggered, and that's actually triggered from the first one, gets bigger, and then they change the name and call the first one the foreshock, and the big aftershock, that becomes the main shock.
Okay. So aftershocks are expected to last for weeks, if not months. Seismologists are saying the space and time we are currently in is the most dangerous time in the region. And the fear, of course, Jeff, is the possibility of a larger quake that's even bigger than the 7.01 or greater becoming the main shock, and this big one being the foreshock.
Yeah. Well, things are still being shaken up here stateside as well, with the controversy surrounding mixed gender restrooms. Our correspondent Larry McGee has been following this story for us and has the latest details concerning that story as well as several others. Larry, what is the story taking place here in North Carolina?
As pressure continues to mount over the current push to normalize transgenderism and homosexuality, some leaders are starting to feel the crunch. North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory recently relaxed newly passed state legislation regarding gays and lesbians while continuing to support the law's stipulations prohibiting mixed-gender restrooms. State representatives such as Billy Richardson are also reversing course and are now calling for Law HB 2 to be repealed after voting to pass the legislation just 2 weeks ago. The numbers from the economic sanctions being leveled against the state continue to mount as well, with businesses in the state capital of Raleigh having reportedly lost $732,000 in canceled events alone, with another 16 groups threatening cancellations estimated to be worth $24 million. Amid the backlash, Governor McCrory maintains that the people of North Carolina are entitled to both privacy and equality, and he has thus sought to restore the right to sue for discrimination. But the state remains firm in its prohibition against mixed-gender restrooms. There was very little rest among the crew of the USS Cook this week after Russian fighter jets buzzed the ship 30 times over 2 days, at one point flying as close as 30 feet. Russian officials are claiming innocence concerning the incident, asserting that the attack maneuvers were part of a training exercise and were perfectly legal since they were carried out in neutral airspace and the pilots executed a turnaway from U.S. ships, which was compliant with all safety regulations. Both the Pentagon and the White House are said to be concerned. There is also concern over the fledgling democracy of Iraq after a brawl erupted during an emergency session of its parliament following a stalled vote. Iraqi legislators are calling for Prime Minister al-Abadi to step down, and there is widespread conflict among lawmakers over who should occupy key cabinet positions. The Prime Minister is being pressed to combat government corruption. Hackers are wowing the nation this week after a report detailing the ease with which hackers can access people's phones. They say everything is hackable, and if someone suggests that something isn't, one expert hacker says He simply doesn't believe it. To bolster his case, the hacker John Herring assembled a team of other hackers and offered to prove it. All it took for the target was an attempt to log on to a hotel's Wi-Fi, which was actually a fake page concocted by Herring and his team. And all of the target's personal information became readily accessible. Email information, account IDs, and credit card info, all at the hacker's disposal. The entire process is reported to have only taken a matter of minutes and is small compared to other feats where hackers are actually able to manipulate a hole in the global cellular network that allows them to not only get into phones, but to turn on the camera and listen to people. And all they needed for the task is just a number. The number of cases of Zika is increasing, and authorities have now confirmed that it is in fact responsible for producing severe birth defects. The expectation and fear is that the mosquitoes in 30 states will begin to carry the virus. Officials say this is the first time in history where a mosquito bite can transmit a virus that has been found to produce birth defects. The virus is said to produce a severe form of microcephaly, which is often connected to other problems in the brain, which are detectable by certain tests such as MRIs and CT scans. Though there are allegedly no cases in the U.S. so far, the disease is being called scarier than first thought, and health officials are urging Congress for emergency funds in the billions to help bankroll the fight. The disease is believed to be responsible for deformities in the thousands in Latin American countries and the Caribbean, and Dr. Peter Hotez of Baylor College is concerned that those who will be affected by the disease in this country are the poor. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Well, definitely the words scarier than we first thought are not the words you want to hear when you're talking about a disease.
No, you're absolutely right about that. Well, North Korea's most recent missile test was a flop as it blew up during launch. Now, this particular missile is said to be able to reach, or was said to be able since it already exploded, to reach U.S. bases in Japan and Guam. The missile test was made during the celebration of the birthday of the late Kim Il-sung, who is the founder of the communist state. His grandson, Kim Jong-un, is the current leader of North Korea.
Well, a mother from Renton, Washington, Ingrid Lynn, went missing after going on a date and hasn't been seen since. Now, on Friday, neighbors said they last saw her checking her mailbox before going on a date to a Mariners game with a mystery date, a man she met online. Well, people didn't start to worry until she didn't show up Saturday morning to pick up her 3 children.
Well, neighbors frantically called and texted the mother of 3, but her purse and the cell phone that she was carrying with her were in the house. That's when friends and neighbors decided to call the police. Of course, later on, her Renton neighborhood was flooded with police, some even from Seattle, trying to get an idea of the whereabouts of the young mother. As far as the man is concerned whom she went on the date with, police at that time didn't release any information as to any connection that he might have, if any connection at all, to the case.
Well, that is until the dismembered body of a woman was confirmed to be that of Ingrid Lynn. As police pieced together what occurred the night of her death, they suspect the 40-year-old mother returned to her home with her date, 37-year-old John Charlton. Now, the two had been dating for about a month after meeting online. Charlton says he doesn't remember the details because he was drunk, but believes she later drove him to Seattle, where he eventually fell asleep on the sidewalk.
Well, no one had seen Lynn the next day until a Seattle resident opened up his recycling bin and saw parts of a woman's dismembered body, which turned out to be Lynn's, inside. Investigators found a 15-inch pruning saw and a box of garbage bags near the tub in Lynn's home, along with blood and pieces of human flesh in the tub drain. Charlton denied having any injuries, but authorities observed various abrasions and scratches on his body. Charlton has been booked in jail with a $2 million bond and has an extensive criminal history, according to authorities.
Well, Syria is back in the news with Plan B in the works in case the negotiated ceasefire collapses. The CIA has created a plan to provide moderate Syrian rebel groups with anti-aircraft weapons if the current ceasefire collapses. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, who spoke with unnamed officials just before the hostilities ended in February, there was a secret meeting of spy chiefs in the Middle East where the U.S. gave provisional assurances to its anti-Assad coalition partners.
Those provisions would approve the delivery of more powerful weapons, including anti-aircraft weapons, to the rebels, which is what Plan B consists of. Plan A, on the other hand, is getting a political process on track. Russia believes the Plan B hurts the process because it sends a message to the rebels in the region that they could get the weapons that they want and that a military solution is one option that's on the table. Well, the big pushers for arming the rebels have been Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
Well, in times past, arming the rebels has led to weaponry ending up in the hands of groups like ISIL and others. Now, one senior official was quoted as saying the agreement between the anti-Assad coalition members is to up the ante if needed. Now, the U.S. stressed its main political process when John Kerry said recently, "Our plan is to push for a transition of political governance that could bring peace and eventually enable the refugees to return to their homes." And boy, I bet they would like that, to be able to go back home.
Oh, most definitely, especially the way they've been treated in the places that they've gone to seek asylum. Well, what role Assad will play in the transition of government is yet to be decided, but the U.S. government is working to put as much pressure on the Assad government as possible.
Well, just what are your children learning at school, and what type of influences are they receiving from the teachers? And of course, these teachers have all the stress associated with their jobs. And how should they deal with the abundance of problems that they face on a daily basis from the students? Well, as we close out today's broadcast, take a look at some of the ways teachers are dealing with the difficult students.
You're stopping them from graduating, you idiot. Why you did that? Why you did that?
Now, Catan, that isn't, of course, all schools, but it is taking place at some schools, and we see they definitely could use some more training.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, lastly, one mother's frustration with disobedience, distraction, and just downright troubles from her children has decided to take matters into her own hands and eliminate at least one of the problems. Watch how she handles this situation.
I hereby denounce the effects that social media have on my children, their disobedience and their disrespect. Charlie! Set her up. I refuse to be cursed. I refuse to be disobeyed. I take back my role as your parent. Get a shot of them. Anything left, put it on top.
Just the rest of the screen, the back casing.
My children's lives are more important to me than any electronic on this earth.
Good for you, we still don't get too far.
I refuse to have them influenced in negative ways, contacting people they don't know, being involved in drama they don't need to be in, and being in trouble in school for having phones out.
Let me hit it.
Well, it's easy to see the world is in a terrible situation, but you don't have to get caught up in the same turmoil. You can come out of this world and start learning the peaceful solution that will solve your problem and give you the resources to lay a foundation for a better tomorrow today. Yeshua Hawkins and the House of Yahweh has that solution. Contact the House of Yahweh today. And when you do, don't forget to request your free copies of the Prophetic Word magazine and the monthly newsletter.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites, www.yahweh.com, www.yisroelhawkins.com, or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website at www.ypnnews.com. And for any emails, you can email that to info@yahweh.com. For any calls coming outside the United States, you can please call the number on your screen. And once again, don't forget to check out www.yisraelsays.com for the Yisrael Says program, the best, latest, greatest study tool on the market today to answer all your questions concerning the Holy Scriptures.
Well, don't go anywhere. Up next, Yisrael Hawkins shedding light on why the world is in such deep confusion right now. For all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.